Vítejte u dalšího videa kanálu Kamosizkosmu. Dnes bych vám Ponty a kontaktérku Sue Walker chtěl představit z trochu jiného úhlu. Chtěl bych vám to představit jako příběh, úplně od začátku. A je to velmi důležité doplnění, jelikož bez něj idea prvního oficiálního kontaktu zní vcelku podezřele. A to z pochopitelných důvodů. Jelikož už jsme spoustakrát slyšeli lidi říkat, toho a toho dne se stane tohle, za tuhle dobu přiletí na zem a ukážou se, no a pokud vím, tak nikdy se z toho nic moc nevyplnilo. Jenže toto je opravdu zvláštní fenomén. Prozatím jenom nastíním. Přibližně před 4 lety Sue Walker nasdílela světu manuál Telepathy 101. Během 2 měsíců byla tato příručka přeložena dobrovolníky do 10 dalších jazyků, eventuálně i do češtiny. A teď přichází to důležité. Velký počet lidí z celého světa svoji telepatii procvičovali, po 100 dnech pilného cvičení požádali telepaticky Ponty, ať je navštíví, no a opravdu za nějakou dobu se návštěvy dočkali. A to v různých formách. Někdo je kontaktován ve snu, někdo v bdělém stavu, někdo si návštěvu pamatuje celou, někdo si ji vybavuje postupně, časem. A někdy zůstávají určité důkazy. Samozřejmě nejde o žádné zásadní důkazy, jako že by na místě nechali nějakou jejich věc, a to kvůli smlouvě, která končí na podzim tohoto roku. Pokud nevíte, o jaké smlouvě mluvím, podívejte se na mé první video. K těmto návštěvám od Ponty dochází všude možně na Zemi. A to, že jde skutečně o celosvětový fenomén, velmi výstižně dokazuje projekt, ve kterém mám já, jako Čech, roli ilustrátora, kde hlavní host je Američan a druhý host je Australan. Jde o vyprávění zvláštních příhod, návštěv a to hlavně mimozemšťany Ponty. Pokud by vás tento projekt zajímal, nechám pod videem odkaz. Teď už ale k jádru tohoto videa. Poslechněte si, jak to všechno začalo, a to z úst samotné kontaktérky Sue Walker.
So just to get us started, for those who have not heard the story, could you just kind of give us a little more information about how this all started for you and your first contact from Sandia?
Sure. Do you want me to do that?
Yeah.
Or, okay. Well, all right. This guy and I actually met in 2012. We didn't start dating until 2013. And he had traveled to where I lived in the Midwest. I was in the middle of the state of Iowa. But I had not done the reverse and come down to see where he lived in New Mexico. And so in September of 2013, I came to visit New Mexico and visit Otter's home and spend some time with him down here and see what this part of the country was like. Because honestly, I'd never been. All I knew about New Mexico is that it was the land of Roswell and Los Alamos National Labs and ET and strange projects, and that's it. It was desert. That was the sum of my knowledge when I got here. I'd been at Otter's home, our house now, less than 10 days, and I started hearing this male voice. And the very first time I heard it, we were watching something on television.
America's Got Talent.
It was one of the Got Talent shows. And we were commenting to each other that we'd heard a particularly good performer. And this male voice pops into my head from nowhere and said, yes, he was quite good, wasn't he? And my head whipped around and I stared out the picture window east because we live in a suburb of Albuquerque, and on the eastern edge of Albuquerque is the Sandia Mountain. And I don't know how I knew, but I knew that the voice somehow came from a specific location inside the mountain. And I went, wait, what? I didn't say anything to Otter right away. The second time I heard the voice, it commented on something we were watching on the news. But the third time I'd heard the voice within a 3-day period of time, well, I figured I better say something to him. And so I was a little tentative about that because I figured he'd put me on the train back to Iowa. Yes, he was. But, you know, I knew he'd been a studier of shamanism for decades. And so finally I got up the nerve and I said, Otter, you ever heard a voice coming from the mountain? I keep hearing this guy. And that's how it started. We didn't know exactly who we were dealing with, because both Otter and I have dealt within the paranormal realm of study for, well, at that point in time, 25 years for me and more than 30 plus years for you.
35.
Yeah. Neither of us are green when it comes to anything in the paranormal topic realm, whether it's ghosts or past life stuff or energy vortexes or what have you. If it falls within that category as well as the UFO extraterrestrial category, because both of us are lifelong experiencers, you know, we've been dealing with it for decades. So we kind of had an idea that this voice was probably not somebody from here. But it was 2 months before the individual that I was talking with confessed, gave us his real name and where he was from, because the voice came from the Sandia Mountain, 10 miles east of us. And because calling it the voice from the mountain sounded kind of dumb and long, after about the third time I heard it, I told Otter that I was going to give it a nickname. And because it came from the Sandia Mountain, I just nicknamed it Sandia. And I did not remember at the time that the word Sandia in Spanish means watermelon. And so the minute I said, I think I'm going to call this voice from the mountain Sandia, he was listening. Honest to God. He piped up and he said, Sandia, huh? Watermelon head, that'll work. And I'm going, what? What are you? And I had no idea what the watermelon head reference was all about at that point in time. It wasn't until he let us know that he was from Zeta Reticuli 2 and a planet called Pontel that I just went, oh, okay, now I get it. Sandia's real name is Tilcum. And when I asked him what his real name was, it was November of 13, so 2 months later. Mm-hmm. The first time he said it real fast. And I said, Sandia, what's your real name? He said, Tilcum. And I said, what? I said, slower. Tilcum. I said, slower. Tilcum. I said, Tilcum. Close enough. And so he spelled it for us. And he spelled it TLKM. And he immediately followed that up with, our language seldom uses vowels unless they're borrowed from another language. And so when you see the names of many of the crew members, unless they've taken a nickname like Radar has, you will see most of the time their names spelled with no vowels. Mm-hmm. So that was how it got started. We had spoken with Tilcum for 1.5 years almost before he introduced us to anybody else that he was working with under the mountain. We knew he wasn't alone, because when you get telepathic information from somebody, if it's a Star Nation, their telepathy is real clear, and sometimes you pick up their side thoughts. And so we'd seen other individuals around him, but we just kind of waited for him to bring it up. And then he introduced us to Drudy and Rahaz, or Radar. And so it was Tilcum, Drudy, and Radar. And it was Radar that finally told Tilcum that there was this thing on Earth called social media. I kid you not. Radar is their information specialist, media specialist. And it was honestly his
Amongst
job.
other things.
Yeah, amongst other things. That's right. It was Radar's job to observe the way that our media affected the opinion of the public.
Mhm.
So whether it was Star Wars, Star Trek, a television series, a radio broadcast, if it was media and influenced the public about any topics relating to extraterrestrials, UFOs, official first contact, visitation to other planets, it was his job to summarize it and give an analysis to Commander Teal'c. So Radar knew our media and thus told Teal'c about social media. And it was Teal'c who came to us in May of 2015. Yeah.
Mhm.
And asked if it was permitted for them to have a social media account. And so in June, the first week of June of 2015, the Twitter account at Sandia Wisdom was opened and Teal'c began sharing. And then eventually Drudy and Radar began sharing. And then other members of the crew. It wasn't until 16 that Teal'c introduced us to our telepathy teacher. And her name is Tini, and we've nicknamed her Teeny because she's really petite. But Teeny is an older gal compared to many of the Ponti. She and Teal'c are not spring chickens. They're a little bit beyond middle age. The Ponti tell us that their average lifespan is about 400 years,
Mhm.
450 with really good health. And Teal'c was born in what would be our year, 1777. And Teeny is, probably 50 years younger than that, maybe, would be my guess.
1840s, 1830s,
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah. So she's never told us exactly, but 1843 would be close. Regardless, Teeny dictated the Telepathy 101 primer, and then that got published last December, 11 months ago, for free, and within 2 months, 45 days to 60 days, was translated into 10 different languages.
Wow.
And so that was how that got started with the Ponti. They've told us a lot. They've explained an awful lot about their culture, and they've been very free to answer questions with us. We've had a fabulous time getting to know them as people. Honest, we have.
Wow. I mean, that's amazing.
It's a little different. Everything we expected, trust me. I mean, it wasn't until we started hearing from other people who have interacted with the Ponti of the Sandia Mountain,
Mhm.
completely outside of Twitter, completely outside of who we knew or ever got introduced to. We met a couple of people. First, our friend Clifford Mahuti is a Zuni elder, and the Pueblo peoples around this area knew about the Ponti and the station beneath the Sandia Mountain and have known about it for millennia, well before white man ever set foot on this continent. And they were interacting with them. That was the first thing. And then the other thing that happened this year is we met an Albuquerque native. And this is a gal by the name of Gloria, who is in her mid-70s. And she had a house at the base of the Sandia Mountain on the eastern edge of town. And she lived at the entrance to one of the canyons that they go up and down because there's an entrance farther up the canyon. So she and her family would see these craft going up and down this canyon. Well, Gloria had her share of interaction, and so did her daughter. And she had a big accident and ended up bedridden for a time. And when she was bedridden, the wall opposite the foot of her bed dissolved in an 8-foot sparkly circle one day, and a group of Ponti came through the wall and surrounded her bed and began to work on her. And she was all freaked out because she didn't know what to do. This is daylight.
Mhm.
And so when they finally left, they left through the same dissolved circle in the wall and left her room. But when I was talking with Gloria, she didn't know. She knew that I knew some of the Ponti by name, but she'd never seen the portraits, the sketches that they've had me do of them. And so I was talking on the phone with Gloria and emailing her some of these sketches at the same time. And I emailed her the sketch of Trudy, the gal with the scarf on her head.
Mhm.
Gloria opened up the email and gasped and began to cry. And she said, I know this woman. Please tell me her name and please tell me how I can talk to her again. Because she recognized her as one of the people that came through her wall. And so all of those stories have corroborated even just the local existence of the Ponti and have come to us just this year. And it's been marvelous hearing local people's interactions with them that have been ongoing or positive. It's real. That's completely separate from the people who read the Telepathy 101 primer,
Mhm.
started following the instructions for the protocol of how to invite somebody and actually getting a visit by invitation. That's happened this year, and that's big stuff.
Zbytek rozhovoru najdete v odkazu pod videem. Stejně tak tam najdete i zmíněný manuál k telepatii, a to jak audioverzi, tak verzi ve formátu PDF. Manuál Základy telepatie můžete, ale nemusíte použít pro kontakt s Ponti. Můžete jej použít na obyčejnější účely, třeba pro komunikaci v páru s partnerem, partnerkou, nebo s rodinou. Lze experimentovat i s telepatickou komunikací se zvířaty. Je to něco, co zní hodně zvláštně, ale z vlastní zkušeností tomu doporučuji dát šanci. Budu se těšit u dalšího videa.
Okay, Ponti has showed me themselves. I can't find them on this camera. There they are. See, they keep going on and off, like they're blinking their lights, going back and forth. They've been showing me.